What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to EP09. So the guest posing at the Pittsburgh Pro is officially in the history books, and I gotta say, we have a lot to cover here. What a show these guys put on this year. These guys really brought it. I'd say this one definitely topped last year's guest posing. You had the addition of Big Ramy, Shaun Clarida, Samson Dauda, and of course, this is the show that benchmarks the conversation around who is going to be fighting for the Olympia title this year. But let's take a look at how the guest posing went. I'm going to break it down for you guys right here. So first off, shout out to Gilco Productions for another round of very high quality footage. So let's start with Hunter Labrada. This was Hunter's chance to really silence the naysayers out there as to whether or not he's still a top Olympia caliber athlete. This was his chance to really showcase his improvements standing next to the best of the best. And yeah, Hunter I think looked pretty good here overall. Hunter showed up here and looked massive. His conditioning was good, especially for, 11 or 12 weeks out from his next show. But we'll see that continue to improve since, of course, he's in prep right now. Now, as far as improvements go, well, Hunter wanted to improve his midsection more than anything this offseason, and I think so far he's on the right path, but I think in the abs and thigh and the side tricep, he could use a little bit more improvement there. Overall, I think the midsection looked good. In the most muscular it was good. In the side chest he had great midsection control, but you know, I was kind of disappointed that we didn't see Hunter hit a vacuum here. He's been practicing vacuums religiously after morning cardio. It's been one of his primary focus items to really improve on. So, why didn't we see Hunter hit a vacuum? I think if he can pull off a vacuum on stage someday, that might be the one thing that could really push his aesthetics to the next level, assuming it pulls in his obliques as well as the abdominals. But overall, pretty good showing here for Hunter Labrada. Now, looking next at Derek Lunsford, talking about the vacuum. When you combine the vacuum with the width from the shoulders and the quads that Derek has, it just really makes for an impressive looking X-frame. I think Derek was the most impressive bodybuilder at the Pittsburgh guest posing. Derek definitely improved from the guest posing last year, and the quad sweep is definitely improved. I actually think his back has more depth to it. His arms look improved, and I think the only thing that Derek really needs is that hard, grainy look to the muscle. Now, obviously, we wouldn't have seen that here, but Derek did have some work to do in improving from a muscle mass standpoint as well, which I think he's made a lot of improvements in that department. I think he's going to continue to improve upon that, but once he gains that hard, grainy look on stage, I think Derek is going to be almost unstoppable, honestly. He's not missing really anything. He just needs to gain a few more pounds overall and then bring that inside-out conditioning. When Derek pulls that off, it's gonna be game over. Here in Pittsburgh, I think Derek brought the size, the best conditioning even, I think, and he sized up really well with every single one of these guys. I think Derek made a smart move when he shut it down after the Olympia. I'm sure the Arnold Classic was tempting, but with improvements like these, it was definitely worth skipping the Arnold. Derek has his eyes set on that Olympia title, and as of right now, I'd say he's on track to keep pushing for it. He definitely was the best on stage here, just like he was last year. Now, of course, last year, we did not see Big Ramy in the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing, but we can all be glad he showed up to this one. I can't imagine what it would have been like for Ramy if he missed 2 years in a row. But anyway, I think Big Ramy looked pretty good here for a guest posing. I don't think he was as big as we all expected him to be in the offseason, but Ramy did just finish Ramadan as well, so maybe that had something to do with it. I think Ramy looked good from the back and in the most muscular, but one of the things I really noticed with Big Ramy was that the arms still look downsized. Even since the Arnold Classic, they look downsized. But the other thing I really noticed is that the dents in Big Ramy's quads are back, and you know what? They're back full blown. Now, I don't want to really get into this thing about the dents in Big Ramy's quads again, because at the end of the day, I really don't think it takes away from his physique to that significant of a degree, but I think it is worth mentioning because we heard both Chad Nichols and Nick Trigili say flat out, just before the Arnold Classic, that the dents in Big Ramy's quads were completely gone. They were noticeable at the Arnold, but I would say less noticeable than what we've seen here. But you know what? You guys can let me know down in the comments section about what you think about that one. I know for the most part the fans don't really care about the dents anymore, but look, anyway. It's also understandable that Big Ramy wouldn't be running any significant gear at this point in the offseason. So, although I think we expected a full-blown Big Ramy here, and I think we all did expect that, maybe that just wasn't a realistic expectation, especially at this point in his career. But you know what? He did show up, and the fans appreciated it. So we know that Big Ramy is still going through stem cell treatments as far as we know. We'll see if those treatments can work any miracles before the 2023 Olympia. Now looking at Shaun Clarida, Shaun continues to show us all why they nicknamed him the Giant Killer. You know, Shaun has really gone full-blown this offseason. He went right back to work, working really hard in the gym after he finished up at the Arnold. And you know, we all know that Shaun is going to stay in the 212, but I do think Shaun is going to be improved this year. The quads look improved already. I think he's got more sweep to the quads. The back, I think, looks thicker and wider. Shaun was really a great addition to this lineup. Now, looking at Nick Walker, Nick had a great showing here too. I found one thing that was particularly good about seeing Nick on stage again was that it really gave us a gauge on where his legs really are right now. It's one thing to see his legs in his update pictures on social media, but you know, seeing him on stage is just a better comparison. And I would say that yes, Nick's legs have grown overall. He still has more to gain in the leg department, but this guest posing really showed that Nick has made progress, and you know what? He'll continue to make progress. Of course, Nick sized up well against everyone at this guest posing. I think Nick actually outsized Big Ramy here. He's added some size to the upper body too, I think. Not as much as the legs, but the arms look bigger. I think his chest looks bigger, which I think he did have to improve on. Nick is definitely bringing the freak factor this year. Now, the comparison between Nick and Derek was the one that we all wanted to see. And honestly, well, Nick stated it in the past himself. If Derek continues to improve, he's pretty much going to be unstoppable. And you know what? Derek has improved. Nick is really going to have to stick to his plan of playing to the freak factor and really out-muscle and out-condition Derek if he wants to beat him this year. But Nick looked great here, and you know what? We can expect more improvements from Nick leading up to the Olympia. Now looking at Samson Dauda, Samson had an interesting showing here, I think. He didn't strike me as the biggest guy on stage, but he did strike me as the biggest presence, probably because he was the biggest in stature. And you know what? I really enjoyed the comparison between Samson and Big Ramy again here, because that's exactly what shot Samson to new heights at the 2022 Olympia, you know, when he stood next to Big Ramy in the initial quarter turns and really sized him up. And we really saw the same thing here. Samson probably looked the most improved on stage behind Derek Lunsford, but he was in really good guest posing condition here as well. Samson actually has a lot of appearances this summer for Hostile, so he's going to stay in reasonably good shape. But you know, I'll talk more about that in another video. I think Samson showed us again that he is the best poser. His individual routine just had a bit more of an edge to it compared to all the other guys, and that translated over to, I think, a lot of confidence in Samson when he came back on stage, you know, with everyone after the individual routines. Now, Samson is just finishing up a health phase, so he's apparently not running any kind of significant PEDs right now. So the muscle that Samson gained from the Arnold rebound has definitely stuck here, but he's kept that streamlined midsection too. His X-frame is still one of the best you'll find out there. So yeah, a really great showing here for Samson. So, with the 2023 Pittsburgh Pro guest posing in the history books, this officially sets the tone for a lot of conversation leading up to the 2023 Olympia. This is the measuring stick for the halfway point in the season. And this is where we can start asking the questions. Who looks improved standing next to who? Who looked the most improved individually? Who do you think is going to be the #1 contender for challenging Hadi Choopan at the 2023 Olympia? You know, one of the big questions for me that got answered here was between Samson and Derek. After winning the Arnold Classic this year, the talk was around Samson now being the #1 contender to really challenge Hadi Choopan, but I really think after seeing Derek on a bodybuilding stage with all the top athletes in the world again, I got to admit, I still think Derek is the one to challenge Hadi this year. But let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Did the Pittsburgh Pro guest posing live up to your expectations? Anyway, that's it for me in this video, you guys. Thank you for tuning in to EP09. Be sure to like and subscribe.